Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. So in a small country church, the men were having a prayer breakfast, and they called upon one of the oldest guys there, old farmer, to give the blessing over the meal, and he stood up and he said, "Lord, I hate buttermilk, and I hate lard, and I don't care much for plain white flour, but somehow you put it all together and give us a hot biscuit. And I have to trust that that's what happens in our lives. That when we have things that we don't like, that you're mixing it together to give us something good." Amen. Let's eat. Isn't that good? That came to me from Stephanie Bland. She sent me that the other day. She said, I like that idea. When we're talking about gratitude, I'm doing 2 weeks on gratitude. Last week we talked about to give thanks in all circumstances. Doesn't mean that we give thanks for the difficult things in our lives, but we trust that if we're living our lives on a spiritual basis, and if we can move our hearts and our minds into gratitude, then even the difficulties will reveal good in our lives. Anybody else have that experience? Yeah, most of us, that's the way it's been. The worst things that happened in my life held great change and great transformation for me. And I ended up being much better afterward. It got rid of some of the old stuck ideas and beliefs. So I don't try to lie to you very much. As a matter of fact, I actively try not to lie to you at all. But today's title, Gratitude Grows the Good, is a lie. And let me explain you. The good, in the spiritual sense, in the absolute sense, is just another name for God. The infinite, the nature of reality itself. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was considered the mother of the New Thought tradition, the teacher of teachers, she said, if you don't like the word God, just put a ooh in it. Good. And it can't be grown because it's infinite. Nothing we can do can change the infinite. But gratitude will grow us. Gratitude will grow and transform our ability to perceive, to receive, to express, embody, and experience good. That's what gratitude can do. Spirit is everywhere present and fully available to give us the greatest blessings, expressing through us, to us, for us, in us, all the time. Guess what's in the way? Me, my beliefs, my error thinking, as the Fillmores would teach. And so what I am invited to do is to release everything that stands in the way between me and God, between me and good. And gratitude is an amazingly powerful tool to move us from So I don't know about you, but I have been known to complain sometimes when things do not go my way. We can have a Complainers Anonymous meeting right now if we need to. I don't know about you, but I have been known upon the very rare occasion to blame somebody else for something going on in the world. And I'm here to tell you that blame and complaint are not spiritual practices that will bring more good into your life. They may be natural responses when things don't happen. But if you want, like me, to experience more good, more freedom, more love, more joy, it's best to lay aside the complaint and the blame and to open our hearts to thanksgiving. So I mentioned Emma said if you don't like the word God, put a ooh in it. There's no word that can contain the infinite. There is no name that has it all figured out. And I know that some people, I was speaking to a young woman in our community who really, really loves this community and this teaching. And she was saying that she doesn't have a lot of affinity or vibe with some of the old traditions. And the word God is not a favorite word. But because that's part of what we do here, that she's working with it. So I just want to say this. If you don't like some of the traditional words or language, I'm only going to bring you the good bits. There's nothing in my intention to bring something from a patriarchal, abusive, religious situation to hurt you again. And so, whatever God did hurt you, that's not what I'm talking about. But I also know that there have been mystics and wise women and men from every generation to the dawn of time, and we would be wrong to throw out all their wisdom just because of a word. So trust me, I only want to bring you the good bits. And if some of this language triggers you a bit, I just invite you to lay it aside. Put it on the back burner. And see if you can see through the humanness of some of these words to find the infinite truth, the good of God, the good of the one. And remember, you can translate too. Just pick another word. When I say that word, pick another. And I'll tell you too, I don't use any gendered pronouns for God in my personal life. I don't. I broke that habit decades ago. But I also don't mind reading from traditions that do speak about the Divine Mother or the Divine Father or whatever that is. So that's a lot of context. Now let me give you the text. This is Psalm 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord Elohim is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. I love that poem. It's a song that the ancients would sing. Enter his courts with thanksgiving and into his gates with praise. Or the other way, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Can I give you the metaphysical interpretation of that? You probably already figured it out. If we are to enter into the relationship with divine good, we do so by giving thanks, praising the good that we already know and see. There may be a lot going on in this world that you don't care for. Can you find good? This phrase, I was taught it early in my metaphysical studies, that look for the good and praise it. Because our mind will often go to the bad. Our mind will often go to the difficult and to the painful. And, I think there's something. I shared my finger story last week, if you weren't here. I received a divine intervention of a sermon illustration by slamming my finger in a drawer the night before I gave a talk on Thanksgiving. And I talked about how even in that situation, because I knew I would be speaking about it the next day, I found all the different things in that situation I could be grateful for. Grateful that I have a hand that works. Grateful that I have a home with a drawer that closes. Grateful that my body knows how to make food for itself. It's incredible. It hurt. And it's all healed. But if I had just stayed in the pain, I think I would have missed a blessing, and you wouldn't have gotten that great sermon illustration. If you didn't watch the talk, go back and look at it. No matter what is happening in your life, in this troubled, needful world, there is much good to praise. And when you enter into the gates of the Infinite One with thanksgiving and praise, you're not changing God. You're not making more God where there was less God. What are you doing instead? You're expanding your capacity to recognize good. And that is growthful. That when we are in that place of recognizing the good all around us, we grow, we change. But some of us are looking for good in all the wrong places. And in all the particular forms. That I'll give thanks when I get what I want, in the way I want it, at the time I want it. And here's where we get into a little interesting conversation, because we do teach the power of mind to co-create with the infinite. And so we teach people how to use the technology of spiritual manifestation, how to draw into their experience what they want. And I am not embarrassed or ashamed of that teaching, because I use it to this day, and it has transformed my life. And the other side of the conversation is, it doesn't always come in the package I was looking for. And the time, yeah, that's a big one. And almost never comes in the time that I want. And yet, if I've tuned to radio G-O-O-D, what I find is, looking back, I can see, oh, the timing was actually perfect. That I wasn't ready yet. The timing would have been wrong for so many reasons if that had come at that point. I just wasn't ready. And so there is this, it's really like a two-step dance. Speaking of Mickey Gilley and looking for love in all the wrong places. We do a dance in the, how do I want to say it, the directive path. I now declare that the wholeness of God demonstrates as my hand being healed and whole. That's directing a specific thing, working with my mind, with the mind of God, to co-create reality. And then taking a step in the receptive. I allow divine love to move through my body in perfect time to reveal its wholeness. You see? It's not either or, it's both and. But what stands in the way? It's us, our thoughts. There's some language we use a lot in metaphysics and New Thought, false beliefs. We have belief systems that are not based upon the eternal truth of the infinite one, but they're based upon, some family history of alcoholism. They're based upon something that happened to us when we're young and we determined that we weren't worthy. Based upon cultural beliefs and practices, going all the way back to the beginnings of culture. Belief systems. I was speaking to a friend of mine when I was driving home from Oklahoma. Had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope yours was good. And she was telling me about an experience she had about, how do I want to say this? She had a belief that if people were going to be around her, that she had to be entertaining. That just being herself, as herself, was not enough for the people that she cared about to want to be with her. And that was a belief she had shared, that had carried for many, many years. And then she also shared that she had recognized that it was false, and she had done active work to just simply lay it aside. And she used this word. She said, Michael, this belief is a cage. See, there was a blessing of love and connection that was available for her all the time, but because she believed that people would only want to connect to her when she had done something entertaining, had been sparkling and effervescent, then she was caging herself from the very thing her heart desired. And I said, I think that's absolutely true, that our false beliefs are like cages that keep us locked in. They keep us from fully expressing the divine truth that we are. And I said, but they're also like lenses, that we see through something that is not true, and it makes us misinterpret what's going on in the world. And we talked about what was the particular incident she had experienced, and we just kind of, walked through, what if it wasn't, what if that had nothing to do with you? What if that was something he was going through that was based upon his own beliefs, and it wasn't about you at all? And this is the work we begin to do. And I do call it work. It may be a 4-letter word, but it's not a bad thing. This work that we do in consciousness. And here's the thing about that. Wouldn't it be great if you just came in here, you heard one brilliant sermon by somebody, somebody, and it healed all your false beliefs for all time? Well, I doubt you could be back the next week, for one thing. But it's not a scheme to keep you coming back. There's a great song Amy Grant sang a few years ago, which I really love, and it's called Overnight. And the lyric says, if it all just happened overnight, I would never know what it means. If it all just happened overnight, I would never learn to believe in that which I cannot see. So we have all, for whatever infinite divine purpose and reason, have elected to come here to planet Earth to take on human bodies with all their weirdness, human families with all that weirdness, human cultures and systems with, okay, you get it. There's a lot here. For the reason, the purpose, to discover again and anew that we're already whole, that God is already here, that the divine plan of freedom is already within us. And when we move through these situations and we release these old beliefs, we do those affirmations, we take those classes, we do that prayer work, and then we get the demonstration, it means so much because of the process. It does. It's worth the effort. And then you do the effort forever and ever, and then you get on the other side and you realize, oh, there was no effort required. Except that's the process I had to go through to get my mind there. You are right where you're supposed to be. The Sufis are a beautiful, beautiful tradition. They were actually pre-existent to the beginning of Islam, but then they were in a part of the world, in Persia, where the Muslim religion kind of took over, and they said, okay, we'll be that, that's fine. But they've always been this mystical oneness kind of tradition, and most of the Islamic people are like, what are they still doing here? But it's just beautiful. And in the 1300s, there were these poets, Rumi and Hafez. And it is Hafez who wrote this. He said, this place where you are, God has circled on the map for you. This place, with this diagnosis, with this divorce, with this relationship with that child that will not act right, this place, with this troubled relationship and this divided political system and this war, God has circled on the map for you and for me. Years ago, when I was beginning my recovery journey, and I was told that I not only needed to work on the substance abuse addiction, but I also needed to work on my weirdness around relationships, I was sent to another room with more steps. And I learned how codependent I was, and how I needed to find out where I ended and somebody else began, and began to work on those relationships. I began to uncover this deep belief in my own unworthiness. And I thought if I worked hard enough, if I paid attention to what you needed me to be and could show up at that as exactly that, then I could manipulate everything so I got what I needed. And most of it was unconscious. That was a lot of work to begin to uncover. And the language I heard was discover, something's going on, uncover what is beneath this, and discard. To let it go. You don't have to be that way. You don't have to do that thing that you've always done just because you do it and you've done it. One of my false beliefs that I have uncovered is that it's a doozy because it has a double edge and they both are horrible. It says this, my false belief is, I'm not good enough and it all depends on me. Do you get that? That's one thing that has come up again and again. I can't do this, but it all has to be done by me. And what I've come to understand in my spiritual journey, it's all false. That I am good enough. And I make a lot of mistakes. I have a lot of quirks. I have a lot of human idiosyncrasies. I have even one or two issues left after all my journey and my hard work and spiritual healing. And I'm still enough. I'm still good enough. And the best part is that God doesn't need me to be perfect to be useful. And so I get to be part of solutions. I get to be a part of what's needed now, but the infinite is more than I will ever be able to fully embody in this lifetime. So I can do my best and let it be good enough. You know, any other recovering perfectionists here? So there's a period in my life, like all of it, where I believed that I had to get it perfect to be okay. And what I've come to understand is sometimes slipshod is good enough for God, evidently. Even half-assed sometimes will get the job done. I don't have to be perfect, but I have to show up. The 4 rules for living a good life: show up, pay attention, tell the truth, let go of your attachment to the results. Show up. Be present with what is. Be with it. Don't drink it away. Don't drug it away. Don't internet it away. Don't Facebook it away. Don't carbohydrate it away. Be with it. Don't numb out. Don't escape. Be with what's here. Show up. Pay attention. And I love this from our tradition because we understand that good is already here in this situation. If we're paying attention, good will be revealed to us here. Tell the truth. I told you I try really hard not to lie to you. I have told some good ones in my day. I would tell lies sometimes when a truth would serve me better because I was trying to be what I thought you needed me to be. I don't do that anymore. I almost said a bad word, Joanne. I'll tell you later what I was going to say. I don't do that stuff anymore. I don't. I have learned if I tell the truth about my human situation and the divine truth of who and what I am, whoo, I get happy. My Pentecostal roots start to show. And let go of your attachment to results. That's where it gets difficult for some of us, doesn't it? Good will come, but it may not come in the time or the shape what you think you need. I'm going to teach you a big word. I know some of you will already know it. Liminality. Ooh. A liminal space is an in-between space. One thing has ended, the new thing hasn't arrived yet. This is called liminality. Filled with uncertainty, filled with, I don't know what the heck's going on here. A quality of liminality is that also there's nothing you can do. Something from outside of you is going to determine how this moves going forward. It's not fun. It is not fun to be in a place of liminality, but how many of us find ourselves there at this particular time in human history? Yeah. You know, being in the church business right now, it's a funny choice I made in my career, I'll tell you that. The churches, the synagogues, the temples are emptying. The isolation, the loneliness, the pulling apart. So thank you for sticking with us. Not because we need your money, we need your butt in the chair, because this thing called spiritual community, we need it. And those of us in leadership here, we are working hard to determine what are the new forms of building community that will serve. I told a friend of mine, he was the spiritual leader of our sister denomination, Centers for Spiritual Living. I was in Geneva last year at a conference with him, and I said, you know, Edward, I don't know what to do. I said, I know that spiritual community and these transformational teachings are needed now more than they've ever been needed, but the old forms that we had to convey them aren't working, and we can't figure out what the new forms are. And he's from South Africa, and I'm going to butcher the accent, but he said, Michael, the new forms aren't on the planet yet. None of us know what they are. We're in a liminal space. Richard Rohr, the wonderful Franciscan priest, just incredibly, insightful and integral in his approach. He says this, no growth occurs anywhere but in liminal space. That's a big claim. But think about it. If I know everything, I'm not going to grow. If I know what's needed and how to do it, there's no growth there. It's just me rearranging the furniture. But if I don't know what the heck to do, if I have no idea how this is going to turn out, if I don't know what is coming or what's going to be asked for from me, I better get my availability big. I better get my responsiveness big. I better really show up and pay attention. I better tell the truth. And I better let go of my attachment to results. And there, Spirit goes, finally, we can work with this dude now. Finally, he's willing and available for something good to happen. And so what it requires from you and from me is our willingness to let go of what doesn't work and be willing to grow into more of what we already are. Most people who show up at Unity are already kind of geared towards growth. I find that. We're not like that traditional church that your grandparents went to and you've always done that. We're for people who are looking for growth. And so I think that we've got a leg up on this thing. That we can do it individually and we can do it together. That we are available. We are available. My friend Maggie Cole says, I want to be as available to God as God is to me. I want to create that kind of spaciousness in me. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.